Cool. Well, we're gonna get going. All right. I'm Albert Chavez, and we have my son Albert the Fourth and Jose Shorty Torres. We're so excited, man. So this is Legacy Project number episode 10, and you know, I got to meet Shorty this past week, and a little bio. He's an American MMA fighter who competes in the bantam division weight of Brave Combat Federation, where he is a former Brave CF bantamweight champion. Shorty's been in the pro MMA since 2016, and he's been in UFC and Titan FC. And we are so excited. This one of the reasons why is Albert came to me and goes, "Bro, I met someone who has kind of a background like you do, and I'm 52. And so for me to know that there is a man or men out there who have experienced the violence, the abandonment, the I would say the not so good upbringing in the United States of America, and is making something of himself. It really inspired me to I want to meet this guy. I want to talk to him. I want to find out some of his story, and I really want to know how he came to be as the man he is today. And I got to really experience him last week, and so yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. Albert and I talk to you, and so Albert, you had a couple of things to say before we get started.
Yeah, first off, Shorty, you're an amazing inspiration. Just the little bit that we got to meet a couple weeks ago, actually, with my business partner and friend Clinton, it was just great just meeting you. And the fact that you came from Chicago and the way that were brought up, you mentioned that you were in a drug household and were still able to use that to use as motivation. And I'd like to have you break it down a little bit more on what really got you into fighting and how did you overcome the situation with your father and end up building that relationship?
Oh man, that's a long story short. Technically, I started the fight because, or at least I did martial arts. I was 4 years old. I did karate. My mom's like, man, he loves Power Rangers, Dragon Ball Z. Obviously this Team Gohan sweater. So I was always very energetic, but my dad was also a very violent person. So I was either getting beat up because he was in a bad mood, or this is how he, played with us. He would play fight with us. His job as a father was like, I don't care what my kids do as long as they're not in jail and dead, and they know how to fight. I did a good job, and technically, job well done, Dad. So for me, it was always learning how to defend myself. Plus, my brother's 8 years older. So I really needed to learn how to defend myself. And my brother wanted to bully me, or my dad obviously was going on his, tantrums or whatever. But one day, my brother got into pretty much a near fatal injury. He had to be resuscitated, got hit in the head, with the bat. And after that, he was technically handicapped. So he's like, man, I can't protect the house anymore, nor can I protect dad from mom. Given my dad hadn't hit my mom for years up to that point, but he's like, just in case, I want you to learn how to fight. If that's the case, I want you to beat dad up. After this year's over of Combat Do, the gym I eventually joined, and at that time, I went to the biggest the biggest junior high school in the United States, the biggest district for high school in Illinois. Like it's all Latinos, all bad neighborhood. My junior high had a lockdown and kids had guns, knives and different things, cocaine at 12, 13 years old, like messed up stuff. And it wasn't that I was going into it, but there was definitely avenues that were there for it. Luckily, I was always the positive person, and I didn't want to be like my father and brother because my brother ended up following suit. Again, we talked about it last week how my image of my father was very different than my brother's image of, our father. He grew up with my dad. I didn't really get the chance to. I grew up with my mother. And even though I had, obviously a phenomenal lifestyle and great upbringing, you always want what you can't have. So
Right.
I was always looking for the love of my father. And as I learned how to fight, even though I was angry towards my father in many things, the crazy thing was, as I learned how to fight, he goes, "Oh, but let's play a little more," and we would play fight more. And I'm like, um, okay. And we would slowly start to get along. Then I had my amateur debut and different amateur fights in kickboxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, all that stuff. And he's like, "Man, you're becoming like a little warrior. You're like a little soldier, a little Mike Tyson." And I'm just like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, cool. Like I'm technically doing this to beat you up, just in case." And then slowly, as the year ended, and I got into pretty much a place where I met positive reinforcement. outside the neighborhood, you only know what's in the neighborhood. You're in a small bubble. So it's the same thing over and over and over again, especially if you can't make it out. You do what's in the neighborhood. You sell drugs, you
Mhm.
do this, you do that. But when you're in the gym, it's a lot of people trying to make it out of the neighborhood. And it's usually OGs that have failed. And it's like, you know what, man, let me at least be a big brother or a father figure to somebody and, a mentor and help guide them. And luckily, I ended up finding that in a lot of OGs, which I obviously respected. Um, but then I had my coach, Master Bob Shermer, kind of being, he was a Marine recon. So he's, it's the Navy SEALs and the Marines. So he's that guy that really put me into shape. He actually kicked me out of the gym, I think 3 times. And I was like, man, fine, I really want to do this. I want to learn how to fight, protect my family. My dad's, I'm, starting to appreciate me more as he always did, but now we're really starting to bond. And man, martial arts didn't just teach me a lot of morals and responsibilities, but it put me in front of a lot of positive people that I needed to go, oh man, I can make it out. And my coach, even though he grew up in Chicago as well, he traveled the world. And I was like, man, I want to
Mm.
do this too. Little I know, my first country I get to go to is Brazil. And then I go to the Czech Republic. And then I'm going to, man, I had to get a new passport, 2 years ago, just because I was already getting full, and this year I've already been to, I think, 5 or 6 countries. And my fight just got announced yesterday, or actually today, that I'll be fighting. I believe it's called Mauritius. That's next to Madagascar. I'd never heard of Mauritius. I went to Guyana a few weeks ago. I'd never heard of Guyana. So it's a lot of things that martial arts has been able to help me do. But I think it's also the discipline, the mindset that my coaches and the people around me inside the gym help give me. And luckily, even outside in the streets, it was just people who were positive reinforcement. They knew they weren't good role models, so they told me what not to be. Like literally my dad, and it sucks to say, even though like my brother tells me the same thing. He goes, "I love you. Hell, I wanted to be your father because I was 8 years older than you." And even my dad, he would tell me, he goes, Angel, my middle name. He goes, "We didn't hang out with you because we knew if you hung out with us more, you would be
Mm.
like us." And I'm like, "Oh, God, that is so deep, but it's so true, because that's all I wanted was to hang out with them and be with them." And I wouldn't say I felt rejected, but it was the fact of like what I thought what they did was cool. And then even if it was going to jail, especially with social media, going to jail, hip hop, this, that, drugs, money, women, this, whatever, it's not the lifestyle you should live. And so they told me not to be with them, don't hang out with them. They would always, in a sense, kick me out, or okay, it's my curfew, you got to go, hang out with the other friends, not us. And so, I was always inside the gym, and that was my reinforcement. I've been in sports since I was 4 years old, so I was always in front of people from outside the neighborhood. And even though I understood that they couldn't understand my mindset because they weren't from my neighborhood, I had to open up my mind to understand their mindset of like, oh man, this is why you think this way because you're from a whole different area or a whole different, ethnicity or religion or whatever the case may be. And I had to think of different perspectives. So it's been pretty cool to be able to get those perspectives inside the neighborhood and now traveling outside and going like, wow, this bubble's huge. It's just made of a bunch of little bubbles. So it's been a cool adventure, but man, it's I look at a lot of stuff and there's definitely times that I've easily could have gone left instead of right.
So yeah, man, I want to touch on it a little bit because one thing that's fascinating about other people in our situation, my son has a different upbringing, like completely different, right? And but when I hear people that come from your background, kind of like my background, there's a switch. There's something that happens. I just remember since I was a little kid, like I knew that I was different. I knew that I wasn't going to be like certain people, but over time I did because the habits and the things that I acquired through learning about drinking when I was really young and smoking weed and all this stuff. So what about you made you different? Like that you didn't want to go to jail or you didn't want to go to drug. What was it? Was it the burning desire just to kick your dad's ass someday, or was there something more that you knew that you were meant for?
Well, the funny thing is, I hate fighting. I am not a fighter. You look at my last fight, you look at the fights before that, I've gotten a little more gentle or if you want to say
Mm.
merciful as the years have gone on. I've never enjoyed fighting. I'm just really, really good at it. And I did the sport, one, obviously, to learn how to defend myself, defend my mother, my family, stuff like that. And even, have to fight my father if need be. But the fact was, I learned how to fight originally because I watched a lot of shows. I watched
Mhm.
Dragon Ball Z, I watched Power Rangers. I ended up having to look at those people as role models instead of the people that were in front of me. I love my mom to death, and she was a role model. She's the reason why, I was able to experience all these things, and I thank her for it. Because as a parent, I know you understand it's a lot of time where you got to do this, a lot of your personal time. But I thank her every day for it. But the fact was, I didn't have role models. The role models I saw were cartoons, or
Mm.
as cliche as it sounds, I was always that genuine kid. Like I was always very gullible, very naive, because I was always trying to be the very, the superhero, the good guy, and I was definitely more of a Goku. I'm a little bit of a dummy, but I enjoy the challenge. I like to have fun. So I think growing up, I always wanted to be like my role models. And the funny thing is, years later, um, I watched Power Rangers. My favorite Power Ranger, as many as was the Green Ranger, White Ranger, Tommy Oliver. And I remember, yeah, he's like, yeah, And I remember when I was younger in college, he ended up starting a Facebook fan page. And I was like, you know what, man, let me see if I can message him and see if he'll reply. And I remember sending one like good paragraph with a picture of me with all my belts and no response. And I'm like, damn it, he must have missed it because he's responding back to a lot of other people. I'm like, let me try again. Like this is literally my real life hero. And so I ended up messaging him, and I just copied and pasted one more time. And he ended up replying back. He's like, dude, that's freaking awesome. And I was just like, hey man, you're my reason why I fought. Like you are a genuine person. I appreciate it. I don't know if you are the person you are as who you played, but man, thank you for everything. And he has his own martial arts studio, stuff like that. Little I know, he ended up sending me a sponsorship when I was in college, and gave
Oh,
me a
wow.
bunch of clothes. And then when I went overseas, he paid for my flight to go overseas. Like if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been able to do a lot of the things. And I'm like, yo, my my fictional hero is now my real life hero, getting me to do all these things that I wasn't. Again, you never know outside the box until you get outside the box. I was Plato in Plato's cave, where I'm like, yo, there's sun. What the like? This is great. So man, and being able to talk to him and go like, wow, you are your character. I don't think it was acting. And then being able to find out the darkness of certain things. Because he was a very depressed person too. And I was like, man, you go through this too? Like, oh my
Mm.
God, you are just human. Like this is kind of nice, a little sad, obviously, but kind of nice. And sadly, a few years back, he ended up committing suicide. But the fact was being able to talk to a person like that, to relate to, and to hear the struggles, and know that somebody was pushing or trying their best as much as they could. Um, it's phenomenal. He was a light to me, and that's something I try to be to other people. I have the hero complex. The hero and the villain has the same backstory, but one person goes, "Man, I didn't have this, so no one can have this." Ha ha ha. And then, "Oh, I didn't have this. I'm gonna give everyone this, or I'm gonna try my best to." And I'm that opposite, where I want to give everyone what I didn't have. So that guy gave me the light, so I want to be able to, shine on it a little more.
I'm
Yeah.
curious, because we touched on a little bit before, but now that you're saying like the hero complex, where the hero and the supervillain are pretty much the same character, right? They're complete opposites, but they're also the same because they went through similar stuff. It's just how they view it.
Mhm.
Now, I want to get a little personal and ask you, like, with you and your brother, is that hero and villain complex as well? Did your brother, I know you said that he went through something, a different experience, right? Do you guys talk about your guys' early upbringing and like how that's affected you going on? And has that allowed you to connect? Or,
Um, a little bit, my brother again, the different because of our age gap and the different experiences that we've had, his life was way darker than mine. And as much as I want to say, like, dude, it's fine or get over it, it's like, no, I've never gone through it, so I can't state that. As much as I want to at times, and I'm like, dude, it's stop bringing it up. And we talked about it last week, where if you don't deal with it, it's always going to repeat. Once that image is there, sometimes that image never changes. And for my brother, there's a lot of darkness still that he's been able to battle through. But I can definitely tell you his upbringing was very different because he was around my father and he saw the violent version. He's like, man, I need to be violent too, or to grow up. Well, it's like to fight against them. He's like, you know what, man, I can't beat dad up, so I'm gonna do everything dad doesn't want me to do. And then he would do bad stuff. So it wasn't to be evil, it was just to, in a sense, create revenge, but the revenge, ends up most of the time biting people in the ass. So that's the hard part for my brother is he's never had many people to relate to. And he's always, you know what, man, my life, I can't do as much as I want to anymore, especially with his physical impairments now. But he's like, man, as much as I can do mentally, let me give it to my kids and let me get to me. So my brother definitely, that guy is one of the most emotional people. Like we watch my fights and I'm like, why are you crying? He's like, oh, I'm so proud. I was like, oh my gosh, like this happened 2 years ago, like get over it. It's okay. I was like, I was the one getting punched in the face, but it's 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 the love that he really does have. He just never had the opportunity to show in a sense, the hero complex. And I think now having kids and really trying to turn things around, especially when you get later in age and go, man, I need to start settling down, or I need to start, again, like you said, there's a moment where you start to realize like, damn, what I was doing was wrong, or what I was doing wasn't the best, and I'm at the same place from when I was 18. So let me change something. And my brother's now doing that. It's slow and progressive, but he's getting there, and that's all that matters is that he's trying. And he definitely has the hero complex. It's just he's more of the anti-hero. He definitely has the darker side if he wants to be.
Yeah. So I'm your brother. I'm your brother, meaning, I have a sibling that's 5 years younger than me, and she doesn't know the version of the dad that I had. And my kids don't know that version. He's their grandfather. And for years, I share this with you because this will give you a little bit of background with your brother as well. For years, we have these stories in our head, and we see that side. And so what I had to do to be safe is I had to develop a complex of like a chameleon. I had to show that I was not hurt or I was not a nuisance. Because if I did, I'd get my ass kicked. Like if I was a burden, I would get my ass kicked. And so I had to learn how to adapt and I learned how to lie, and I learned how to cheat, and I learned how to be people please for safety, for survival. And it's interesting, I just got over this complex, like I'm still working through it over the last 5 years. And what I had to recognize is there's old beliefs that I was holding on to. Now, part of it, I'll digress. Part of it is him and I got into a fight when I was 16. The motherfucker swung at me. Like we got into a fight. That was the last time he ever bullied me. However, I still dealt with all the memories that I was holding on to. And that's the key. What your brother has to work through is I had this thing where I was absorbing everything that happened to me, and I was replaying it over and over and over. I had to learn how to observe what happened, acknowledge it, and then move on like you have. I didn't know that. I was reliving these fucking memories and these ideologies, and it was killing me. So I decided that I was not going to I started letting it, again, observe that happened to me, but I'm not going to let it dictate how I act, because I would then justify my acts by my upbringing. Oh, my dad did, my mom left me, and I was deflecting any fucking accountability and responsibility. And even became, as a father, I would do that. So I relate to him a lot, and it really does take not just self-awareness, it takes accountability. Like, okay, that's not me anymore. I don't have to live that way anymore. This is the person that I need to be. And what are the steps do I need to do to get rid of some of these old patterns of behavior and beliefs? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, my brother, especially when he was attacked twice, there's sense of like, I want to retaliate, end wars and this and that. And we had, our fair share of wars back and forth, but then more people get hurt, more people end up in prison, more people, there's always, consequences. And with the second time when he got hurt, he's like, man, just let it go. I was like, dude, you got stabbed. Like my brother was stabbed 17 times. He ended up dying, got resuscitated. My brother died twice. It's crazy. He's like a cat. The Prince of Bahrain calls him a legend because every time he sees him, he's like, he's alive. Like he just somehow, my brother has amazing stories, but he just the second time he's like, man, I don't even want to deal with this anymore because more people are gonna get hurt. He's like, and that was like slowly starting to go, man, I gotta change this stuff around. If not, I'm gonna die. And not just like he's gonna die, but also for his kids. He has 3 kids now, so it's like, yeah, man, I gotta at least be somewhat of a role model and figure out a way of, even if I can't be the role model, at least let me give them a livelihood that they can at least maintain, a time at school or maintain different activities outside so they can get the proper role models or whatever the case may be. I know he shows them a lot of videos of me like training and stuff. And, I try my best to be as humble as possible. I was like, thank you, I appreciate it, but don't let your kids think I'm a god or something. Like, stop it, please. I don't like it. Like, I'm an average person. It is what it is, but and shout out to the guy down there on IG Live saying D-Tech the Terminator. He literally is the Terminator. He won't die. It's ridiculous. Knock on wood. But no, you're right. And I can definitely tell you there's times where like my brother's gone to therapy or try to talk about stuff and you can tell he just gets triggered and it's like, hey, it's okay. Like, take your breaths, calm down. We'll figure this out. Like, but you can't get triggered and then just run away from it. And it's not just him, it's many people. I've done that as well. Especially with like my last relationship, she would always tell me, and I would look at it as like, oh, she's antagonizing me. She's like, no, you need to work on this. And I'm like, nope, I don't care. And I would leave, you know. It was just like years later, you're like, oh wow, that's what she was saying the whole time. Oh, my bad. My bad. It was me. No.
Well, it takes a lot to even realize, like, oh, I need to change because
Mhm.
most of the time we don't. And especially when you're younger, you're just trying to figure out what's going on. I know it took me a while to even notice like what my blind spots were because you just think you're on the right path so much. And there's a positive, like, there's a lot of positivity in terms of knowing that you are on a certain path. But if you don't know what's going on and what's actually blocking you from getting to that next level, it's so easy to just get stuck in the same rut over and over again. And so, kind of in the same sense, I heard you say something that you don't like fighting. You use the word hate.
Mhm.
So, I don't, do you see it as like a job? Because a lot of people don't like their certain situation. How do you will yourself, or how do you manage that when you have to hate you hate fighting so much? How do you manage to do it on a daily basis?
Well, the challenge of going with another gentleman or even a female in practice, it's fun because it's nothing serious. I don't mind losing. I grew up losing. I was a shorty. I was always the smallest guy going with people my age that were always significantly taller. You should have seen me playing basketball in eighth grade. Like my head was the same size as basketball, but I was, yay tall while everyone's like, your height. I'm like, all right, this sucks. So it became very difficult for me. So I grew up losing, so I didn't mind kind of taking one for the team or like, cool, it's normal. And then I slowly hit puberty and because I had to catch up so much technically, by the time my size and weight grew up, I was like, oh wow, I'm beating people up. I'm much better because I'm faster, I'm stronger, I'm smarter, technically. And that's how my career's kind of flourished because I've always been the shorty. But I've never like hurting people because people don't understand the dark side of MMA. You don't do the sport because you want to do it for money. You do it because you love it. Like I think it's only like 10 or 15% of people actually make it to the UFC and Brave and Bellator and actually make a living where they don't need a side part job or full-time job. Me, I'm fortunate enough to handle my savings, have investments, and do well enough to be able to train full time and not have to worry about it. Plus, I don't think I have any kids and I don't have a partner where I need my money's for me. So I travel and enjoy my life, but most people don't have that privilege. So fighting, they have to have. I think Pantoja, for example, he's the flyweight champion in the UFC. He had to work part time as an Uber driver for 11 straight UFC fights until he won the belt. It's like, what? Dude, you're an 11 fight veteran. You're still so. There's not much money in the sport, so you do it because you love it. For me, I did it because I had to. I did it for two reasons. One, mentally, I'm a natural people pleaser. And I think that's because of the affection I didn't receive that I really, really wanted. So I would do stuff to get my father's attention, especially my father, because again, they pushed me away. Now I know years later for the reason, but I was always trying to people please. So what did my father want me to do? He wanted me to fight. And what did I want to do? I wanted to be a hero. So I was like, wait, I see my heroes fighting for good. Oh, wait, my dad wants me to fight. Hey, two birds, one stone. So little I know, years later, when I start winning amateur fights and pro debut and belts, kids and people and even people my age or even older would like message me and be like, dude, you motivate me to get back in the gym or you motivate me to get back in the office or do whatever job you're trying to do. Just kind of like, hey, if this shorty did it, then so can I. So for me, that was always my motto of like, we can, we will together. We are Team Shorty because I can't do it by myself. And I'm very extrinsically motivated. Like if people support me, I'm like, yeah, people don't. I'm like, I kind of don't want to do it. So it's for me, I did it because I wanted the love and affection of my father, and I also wanted to be a hero. So I was able to get those two birds, one stone. For me now at 31, I've been doing this since I was 4 years old. It's not that I don't know how to do anything else. I think I'm very talented with commentating, speaking on camera. I used to act, model, all these different things. But the fact is, this sport only lasts so long. So let's enjoy it to the fullest while I still can. And then once it's over, it's officially over. I can't change that. I'm not going to fight at 45 or 50. Hopefully I go that far. Again, I live day by day, so I never even expect to see tomorrow. So, and that's a whole different reason. But for me, I fight because I want to leave some type of legacy behind to go, hey, the shorty did it, so can we. I always say, and I think I said this 2 fights ago. Don't I'm just trying to remember what I said. I just got punched in the head. Don't be just what your neighborhood tells you to be. Like you can do more than what your neighborhood tells you to be. You can be more than a plumber, a mechanic, a handyman, whatever the case may be. So for me, I just want to show that I pursued my dreams. Don't have, your parents or your family or people around you tell you you can't do this because you're this ethnicity, this religion, this neighborhood, or whatever the case may be. So I want to be a small example, literally, and just kind of go from there. So that's why I fight, but I don't like fighting. I don't like hurting people. You also got to think about it. When I made it to the UFC, I beat someone. That guy didn't make it to the UFC. I've
Yeah.
retired like 4 people because of injuries. It's like, man, my last fight, I had to retire in the fight because I
Right.
got cut here and cut here. I couldn't see, and it just logically didn't make sense to continue. I was like, "Oh, this guy I can tell is showing me mercy. I can't see. I can get knocked out, break a jaw, do this, do that. I'd rather just fight him in a trilogy, which is finally announced. Yay!"
Mm.
But the fact is, it's
Congrats.
like it could have been so much worse, and that could have been my last fight. And literally every fight now with these cuts, they can open up super easily, or I break a bone, do this, do that, my career can end tomorrow. So that's why I say, let me just enjoy this while I still can, as long as I can, and go from there. And I'm already planning my outside stuff, but until then, enjoy myself while it's still here.
I'm curious because when we were on the call the other day, I'm curious at what you think, since your relationship with your dad got better as you got older, right? I'm curious at your first impression of Albert and I inviting you as this duo doing this, and your impression and what you think, and I'm just kind of curious of your vibe of what we're doing here together.
Well, I think it's awesome because I didn't have that,
Yeah.
and most people, at least when I left the neighborhood, they had close relationships with their family. And most of the time it was different ethnicities. But for me, like my neighborhood, it was just like our parents would yell at us, tell us to work, and somehow we would resent one of them or do this and do that. We'd be close to one of them. I'm close to my mother. But then as I got older, I got close to my father and really resonated with him because I now started to understand his livelihood and the reasons why he did stuff. And it's like, oh, wow, I'm older and now I understand this. And especially the brutality of my sport. I'm like, oh, no wonder why you were so violent and, so non-merciful, so just brutal at times. So for me, it's not that it doesn't throw me off. I just expected it from every other family. I was kind of jealous that I'm like I have a friend who's super close to her mother. I was like, that's awesome. Like I'm glad like she's good with her mother and good with the grandmother. It's like an all woman household. And I'm just like, you guys literally talk, tell secrets to each other, do this, do that. I was like, I didn't have that growing up. Like I had that growing up to a limit with my mother once I got to a certain age, and then eventually transitioned to my father. That's why I say he was my best friend before he went, because he was finally. It was funny because there was one time I used to love Family Matters. Steve Urkel and Carl Winslow, and I always felt like Steve Urkel no matter where I went because I never went home. I was always house hopping, so I literally had different fathers, different mothers, stuff like that. And I was like, dude, you're finally the Carl Winslow I've always wanted. Like, you're now the reality sitcom father that every kid wants. This is what we wanted to live. And I'm just like, wow, you're giving me phenomenal advice. Where was this when I was like 10 years old? I really needed this, with this girl, or, 14 years old with this dilemma with the bullies, or, whatever the case may be. So it was nice to have it. And again, I rather have loved and lost than never loved at all. So I'm happy to have cherished it. But I say it in a very positive way. I'm definitely jealous of the relationship you guys have because it is awesome. And as I say for both of you, it's phenomenal to have that. And whatever dilemmas that you guys do have, I hope you resolve it as quickly and as reasonably as possible. Because I know, again, as we talked about with your father, there's something happens and it can't be, it can't be broken. It's like, oh man, it's a done deal, So I really hope that it continues to stay that way because I don't have any time with my father anymore, and so it's envious to be like, man, this is awesome. So, I praise you guys for it. It's amazing.
Any questions for him?
Um, I guess were you guys always this close?
I'll let you talk, Albert.
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons why we decided to do this is to share how we reconnected. That's one of the trees, the branches of it. Another reason is to show how we do it on a daily basis and how we reconnect day by day. Kind of what you said. it's a daily process, right? And so about we really disconnected when my parents divorced, and so that was really hard. And even the years leading up to that, I should say. So I was 11 when before they divorced, and then 2 years later, I think I was 13, 14 years old when it finally happened. So it was about 10, 12 years ago when we really started to shift. And then it got exasperated once I moved down to Southern California, which I'm originally from Sacramento area, Northern California. And so that gap, that physical gap, allowed me to emotionally like break off too from the family. And so once that happened, I was like, I'm out. I don't want to deal with this shit. Like they can deal with all that family crap, you know? And so that allowed for me to be more selfish and also honestly kind of escape from what was really going on. And so that was with a lot of my family relationships. And so fast forward 3, 4 years ago, there was an event that happened with my dad that really got triggered, and he got arrested. And he's shared this already, and that was the trigger that okay, I need to get my shit together because if this is happening, then what else is going to go on if I lead that life? And so again, that was his catalyst to really start working on himself. And then once he started doing the work. He got a life coach. He started building up his own strength, and then he did a lot of men's work to help basically mend some of those old souls, mend some of the relationships that he had. And then we had a heart to heart for about 2 hours. We were chilling at a restaurant down here in Southern California. We did not intend for it to happen at all. Um, I don't even remember who started the conversation. It might have been him, but we just felt this tension that was lingering for years, and it just happened. We just threw everything on the table. We said, "This is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like I don't connect to you. I don't really know you." He said very similar stuff like, "Hey, like you're my son. I love you, but I don't like the way you're treating me." And we just broke down and cried for like 30 minutes inside this restaurant and just like bared witness. We didn't hug until afterwards, but it's just nice to let it all go because I don't know if you've ever been in a bad relationship before, but you can feel it in the air when you're with someone. You can be across the table from them, and it's just
Yeah.
it sucks. Like you're like, I love this person, I know I do, but I feel like I don't at the same time. And so once we decided to just let it all go, from there we just built it day by day. And it was still a struggle afterwards. Let's not pretend like it was easy. We even felt awkward even afterwards, but that was about 3 years ago now. And yeah, ever since then we've really just built it, built it, and built it. And now I'm like his best friend. I feel like I can just trust him with anything. And I talked to him about dating stuff. I talked to him about future stuff that I'm working on. And then last year we decided to make this.
I'll share a little bit. So you're not a dad yet that you know of yet, Shorty, but I'll tell you.
I
So
deny a lot of calls.
and you haven't got any fathers yet. So one of the things that I've come up and I shared with you the other day is what I had to learn is I broke my family up. I left the marriage. Okay. And with that, I knew there was going to be damage. And let me back up a little. I was a really good dad to Albert for about 10 years, right? I was a part of his life. You know, I was there. But what happened was I lost myself in the process. And in that, I lost him because I stopped being the dad that I was to him earlier. So that gap of divorce, of I was drinking a lot, I was partying a lot, I was reliving this life. I was not the man that he grew up with as a young child. So in essence, what the divorce did is it caused traumatic trauma to all of my kids in some way or other. And that tension that him and I felt had to do with him being a young adult, in college, me not dealing with my shit. Remember, I hadn't dealt with anything, bro, anything until 4.5 years ago. So he got the brunt of all of the bullshit I was dealing with. All my kids did. And so eventually they all stopped talking to me. So what I had to do as a man is I had to fucking put the mask on myself. Like I said, when you're in the airplane, right? When the cabin pressure drops, put the mask on yourself. Don't put it on your kid. I had to essentially resuscitate myself. Who do I want to be? How do I want to become? How do I want to be? And what kind of father do I want to be to my kids? Now, in that, I wasn't expecting any of my kids to come back to me. I had to work on me. So over time, I had to learn how to communicate better and stop putting myself on a pedestal that I was this daddy, right? Father figure. And I was just a broken man like many of us out there. So when we came together, it was more about me surrendering. This is the one that both of you guys, as a father, what I had to do is surrender that I hurt you and I caused the pain. Not my dad and not my mom. I did. When I started taking ownership for my actions, that's when the trust of my kids, including Albert, I felt coming back because I was no longer avoiding, complaining, dismissing. And so that right there, as a parent, what I had to learn was own that I hurt, and whatever they say to me, it doesn't matter. I have to own it and not take it personally. That was the real key for us to really develop the relationship. Because again, I mentioned to you, I don't talk to my dad. I don't talk to him because he hasn't owned anything in his life that had to do with me. But if he were to call me today and say, let's talk, I'd be on the next plane. That's what I essentially did with Albert and my other kids. Like, look, let's talk. I love you. I don't want to lose you, but this is what I need. What do you need from me? And once we put it on the table, that is when things started building because now we had a level playing field and we all knew, we both knew what we needed, but we had to express it. And then we took each that data in, and then slowly but surely we started reaching out and doing stuff like this. So it happened over time. And I'm super proud of him. I tell him all the time, I'm proud of the man he is because he is setting his own foundation for his life based upon the man that he wants to be. And I am. And we just happen to come together like, let's bring this legacy project together and help other men's relationship with their fathers, help other men relationship with their moms, and vice versa. Sisters or daughters and dads, all these things we feel the family is so important. We want to bring it out like people like you that had your upbringing and your life, and you're like, no, I want to teach the world also about the importance of leaving a legacy. So we're all on the same page, but him and I happen to be doing it together as father and son now.
Oh, that's amazing. It's a hard thing to do as a person to understand that you got BS that you need to overcome. You know, that the whole it's not you, it's me, and then you're like, oh wow, it is me. Oh my bad. I guess I was the problem the entire time. I guess I'm sorry. You know, so it's and I personally didn't know that until after my last relationship. I was like, man, why is everything failing on me and this and that, and plus other things outside. Sorry, somebody's taking a shower. Things outside my relationship that were also going downhill. I was like, man, how do I figure things out? Like, what's going wrong? And then I started dating again, and then the same kind of cycle was happening because I was doing the same thing. It's like, oh, it's me. Oh, okay. Damn. Let me think about all the arguments that we used to have, and let me write down some notes and journal and figure some stuff out. Okay, I don't know how to get over this. Or jealousy or whatever the case may be. Let me TED talk this. Let me look up whatever I can, YouTube, whatever I can possibly find. Let me ask people who've literally been through the same situation and be vulnerable and open up because I was already so heartbroken. Then I got cut from the UFC, and I worked my whole career for something, and got very belittled, very unfair circumstances. Man, I worked so hard for something, had the great resume, but politically I got kicked out because they have buddies in the system, whatever the case may be. And then I build my whole life for my father, and then he goes, and it's like, oh man, what's there? So that for me was my turning point of like, man, and now COVID hits, which is the worst freaking thing.
The worst timing.
And I was in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Have you ever heard of that? No one has. So I'm literally in a cul-de-sac. It's like Ed, Ed, and Eddie. There's just one street, no one's there. It's like the same people over and over, but no one talks to themselves. So I was like, man, let me just stay inside the house. Whoa, it sucks. It sucks more when you're lonely when you're alone. There's a difference between I'm alone, but I'm good. Like I'm actually very content. I'm happy with myself. But then there's like, man, I wish you're looking for resolve in other people when you need to find in yourself. So man, I took so much time with myself. Hell, I even used to watch a lot of anime to figure stuff out about myself, to even just find different perspectives. Dude, anime is the shit. It's amazing. But there are a lot of things that was my turning point to figure out like, oh man, I need to find a lot of problems wrong with me, find out different ways to resolve it. but also put myself in those situations again, because you won't know that you resolved it until you're back in that same exact place. But obviously with a different person, a different partner, whatever the case may be. So man, it's like for you guys, it's been a journey, and that's something I'm trying to, just like you as well, is hopefully spread the positivity, or at least the mindset of, hey man, open up. It's okay, especially as
Mm.
men, and especially as you understand of being an OG. It's like, you're in the hood. We're not, my dad didn't teach me how to cry. And then as he got older, he was crying all the time. I was like, yo, what the hell? Like, he's like, man, it's pent up stuff for years. Like, I don't know. I just cry now. I was like, this would have been great when I was a kid. I could have been vulnerable this whole time, because I'm definitely a very, very sensitive person compared to my brother and the rest of my family. My mom is an animal. For me, I'm just like, oh man, what? We're out of food? So like any little thing I'm gonna like be sensitive over. So um it's okay to not be okay. It's definitely okay to express your emotions, and hopefully find a person or people that you're vulnerable, that you can be vulnerable with. And obviously that's a type of scenario as well.
So we got about 10 minutes left. So the question I really wanted to ask you is, so what's your burn now? Your burn used to be your dad. What fuels you right now at 31 years old to continue doing what you're doing, getting up with the discipline and being the regiment day in out, day in, day out, day in, day out? What is the burn that Shorty has that you could share with people?
Well, see, it's kind of funny. So as the three things that I lost, my relationship and my father at the time, were the three things all I wanted. And I lost all of them. I achieved all of them and then lost all of them. Obviously, most of them out of my control besides the relationship, and maybe that was inevitable as well, like Thanos. So the fact is, it's like I lost everything. I didn't want to live. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna be one of those guys that commit suicide. I got too many people relying on me to work on my mental health and push forward. And let me just go day by day. But if I don't go out and try, I will 100% never find anything new that I want to pursue, whether it's a career, whether it's a relationship, whether it's new relationships with people in general, another father figure, whatever the case. And I started to really reach out to people and just talk and try to spread positivity. So for me, my career still helps me do that. And then I noticed, even in my last fight, I wasn't very serious. I've even noticed in sparring that if you're not a fun practice partner, like if you don't challenge me, I'm not excited, and I'm like, all right. Like I'm just very
Mm.
careless, and I end up getting hit a lot more than I should. They call me lazy pretty much. So I wasn't excited in my last fight, but then when I lost, because of the cuts and stuff like that, I'm like, damn, I had to do a Roberto Duran. I had to say no mas, and as a man, give up. I'm like, I gave up. It definitely burned another fire under me of going like, hey, wow, I actually do love this sport. Because I didn't.
Mm.
I'd be like, oh, I lost. Well, I guess maybe we'll fight again and see where it goes. Now I'm hungry as hell, but this routine is normal to me. I've been doing this since I was 4 years old. So it's a natural thing to wake up, train, work out, do this. When my career's over, I'm still gonna wake up, train, work out, do this. I might not be getting punched in the head as much, but hopefully not. But the fact is, I'm always gonna repeat this. For me, the reason why I'm still living is to find out what I want, and I'm
Mm.
still pursuing that. Hopefully one day it is a family. Hopefully one day it is, a relationship and stuff like that. But, or in a sense, even a normal life. I've been out of the house since I was 18, so, and when I say out of the house, like, I mean, I didn't come back most of the time, or I was in different states or different countries. So,
Mm.
and literally my mom asked me at times, she's like, where were you? I was like, I was in Guyana. She's like, where's that? I was like, don't even worry about it, so it's the fact of, I've always been to myself, and I'm still, in a sense, figuring out what I want. But the fact is, I'm also very open to everything. I'm kind of Jim Carrey from Yes Man. I'm like, man, let me see where this goes. And if I don't go out there, then obviously nothing ever will change. So let me try something new, have fun. If I don't like it, I tried it. Then let's go do something else and see where it goes from there. So I'm enjoying life to the fullest as I can, obviously responsibly and reasonably. But just I'm also really making some really, really good connections with people, and enjoying times with people, and just I travel so much, man. When I hang out with people, I make it like it's the last time I'm gonna see them.
Mm.
So just
That's a good
because
way
I've
to
lost
live.
my life. I never expect to live another day for many reasons. And then obviously my brother and his mental health. So it's like for me, I was like, man, let me just keep on going and go from there. And if I can spread some positivity somewhere, amazing. If I can help someone, even better. So my thing, my middle name is Angel. So I like to be the light in the room. And when you see my light dim, I'm like Robin Williams, you'll notice. So I think the most depressed people are also the funniest people because they never want people to be that way. And that's the hero complex.
Mm, that's cool. I have one more question that I haven't asked this before, so I'm just curious. Is I know you said you wanted to eventually have kids on your own, being a son. Um, what would be one thing that you'd want to tell your future kids, if like a lesson?
Um, let's see. What would I tell my future kids? Don't do drugs. No, have fun, be open, and do what you want to do. Be yourself. That is the biggest thing. And I'm pretty sure everyone kind of slowly has adapted to society or what people think or what the people around them think and want them to do. Man, be yourself. I'm actually talking to a friend and I'm like, I know your mom wants you to do this, but you're an adult now. Like, yes, let's figure something out and maybe we can compromise, but you're not happy with what you're doing. What do you
Mhm.
want to do? What do you want? These are the things that make you happy. Find something that makes you happy. If you really want to do something, I think you're motivated enough to do it, you'll do anything to grab it. And I can say that with my goals that I've been able to achieve. If, and rest in peace, one of my coaches, I remember him telling one of my friends, like, oh, you met Shorty? If once he puts his mind to something, he's gonna grab it. Doesn't matter
Mhm.
what it is, doesn't matter what he's got to do, he's gonna find a way to escape this prison. He's gonna find a way to do this, and do that. Like he's gonna get it. So for me, I always say, man, if you're motivated enough and you really want something, go for it. And I just say yes, try it, have fun, and just be open to new things and see where the world takes you from there. But don't be scared of yourself.
Yeah, man, we'll wrap this up here. So, do you have any thoughts, Jordy, that you want to ask us, or anything you want to say before we take off there?
I just want to, acknowledge that this is a really cool thing that you guys are doing. Not just for mental health and to help people, but I mean, just you two as, family. It is a good thing and not just family, but best friends. Again, that's something I admire and what I had with my father. Like if I could do this with my father, what she never would have done. But if I could have done this with my father, I definitely would have, or at least had more videos, more photos, or more conversations like this. Because you start to realize, like, damn, we're not so different after all. Or, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I do this too. That's where I get it from. Oh, you're the problem. No, so you have some fun. So I think this is really, really cool. And I hope you guys continue to pursue this as long as you possibly can. And I hope it doesn't just go, become successful for you guys, but I also hope that, it makes the relationship that much stronger and keeps on helping other people along the way.
I'm blessed that you're here, brother. Like you have no idea. Like it's cool just really diving into someone's story that like you just never know where people come from. That's what I'm realizing more and more when I have more conversations with people that are like 5, 10, 15 years older than me is I want to learn from you. I want to learn from people that really have come from a different lifestyle than I grew up. Someone that doesn't really care what they went through and also acknowledges what they went through so that they can be that person that they need to be for everyone else and for themselves. It's just really honorable that you're even here right now. And the fact that you take some time out of your day, it means a lot for people like me. And I'm sure everyone watching is going to take something out of this that no matter where you went through, no matter what your background, you can be who you want to be. And it starts with now. So that's what I'm going to take away from tonight. And I really just appreciate you for taking some time out of your day.
Well, I appreciate it. I do have a question for the OG here. If there was something you can change in your past, or at least go, if you were able to go back to your past and talk to a younger version of yourself at whatever age it could have been, and if you could explain the age, that'd be great. But what would you tell yourself and why?
So, the first thing is 16. When I was 16, was a major pivotal point in my life. That's when I learned how to have rage in my life. I let my rage for about 10 years. It was destructive. I would say, stop engaging in the rage and use that energy to go build yourself, build your wealth, and build your people around you. I didn't do that. I was very selfish. I let that thing eat me up so bad that I self-destructed. Even at 16, 17, 18, 19, I would have said, look, shit's going to happen. You can't control it. Learn self-control. Go build your body, your mind, and your money. That's it. I don't know what that is, but that's what I
Damn,
would.
damn, that's how legit it is. Damn.
The explosion.
That's what I would have done. And so, and I will tell you, I don't know what if I would have listened to him though. That's the
Mhm.
key. So I learned this lesson, guys, at 47. So back to you, Shorty. Like your dad really wanted to be the man that you needed in his life when he was older. He just didn't know how, and he wasn't willing to go to that pain that I talk about. Then when you go to that pain that's so deep, that pain is your medicine. He just avoided it for too many years, and he didn't get an opportunity. The only thing I did, guys, is I'm like, fuck that. I'm going to the pain because my life and my family is way worth it. And so I'm going to do everything I can to be that dude. That's why I'm here with my son and why I'm here with you. Is I decided at 47 that I no longer do want to be that old self, and I wanted to create a new. I created a whole new dude, man, at 48 years old, a whole new guy, because I was willing to sacrifice everything, my ego, my just who I used to be, so I could be the better man for all y'all there. And so I appreciate you guys being on, dude. I am so excited. I'm thrilled with your audience here. And if anybody wants to join us next week, we're on Tuesday. We're on Tuesdays. We're talking about masculinity. We're talking about parenthood, fatherhood. We're talking about divorce. We're gonna have a buddy of mine come on in a couple of weeks. We're gonna talk about like how divorce is so fucking damaging to family. Like this is like real talk, and we can do it as men as long as we're willing to number one, listen, and also hear, and also just reflect back. If we can do that, we can solve a lot of issues. But too many people just want to talk and they don't want to hear the other side. And that's why nothing gets accomplished. So, no, man, I appreciate you coming on here, dude. And we'll have to do it again. But yeah, I much success. And I got to know you a little bit more. I get to follow you now. And yeah, man, I just love what we did.
Quick question for the youngin. Uh, what did you do? Did your personality change, or do you change as a person when your parents divorced?
Oh, I shut down. So I'm a people pleaser too at heart, and I'm a very independent person. So I use that as an excuse just to totally branch out, and I checked out. I I don't remember a lot of my junior year when it actually happened of high school because I just completely blocked it out. I was like, I'm just gonna continue doing what I'm doing, go to school, do the SATs, graduate, and get the fuck out of here. And so I just did not want to deal with it at all. I was like, let me just leave. I'm so close. I'm like right at the finish line. And so what happens when you don't deal with your stuff? It comes back to bite you. So 2, 3 years later, I was like, why am I pissed off at the world? Why am I dating the same people that aren't going anywhere? Why am I having the same problems over and over again where I'm not achieving what I want to achieve? And so it was just because I didn't know how to voice my opinion, didn't know how to speak for myself. And so this last 2, 3 years um, really just allowed for me to learn what my voice is. And so I that's why I'm excited for this project is because we get to actually speak our mind and I get to learn more about myself on like how I can just be more vulnerable, be more accountable for myself, and just yeah, really just learn more about myself and learn about my dad through this process.
Good. Yeah. No, the reason why I asked that because my personality was very different when my parents divorced. My mom took me away without telling me. One day she just picked me up from school, left people, didn't say bye, a whole different neighborhood, different house, didn't get to say bye to people, friends, whatever the case may be. I wasn't told anything until like 3 months in. And I'm like, yeah, dude, where's dad? I'm like 9 years old. And eventually, I started smoking. I'm 9. I started smoking. I started stealing. I started selling dime bags and nickel bags, super, super small things and just being a bad kid. Like I was the kid your parents told you not to hang out with, you
Mm,
know. And then when I was in fifth grade, when my parents were slowly like kind of trickling to get back together, dude, I was a bully. So pretty much I became the anti-hero. Instead of being the hero that I
mm.
wanted to be, I was using what I knew from martial arts to beat people up. I got suspended 12 times in fifth grade. And so it was a great time. It was a phenomenal year. But and it slowly changed when my family got back together. So it really showed how much of an impact that really does make for certain people. But even when people are divorced, how close you still can be if possible, especially with technology today.
Well, that's the last thing to kind of fast forward to now is me and my family have been able to do Thanksgiving together for the last 4 years, which has been awesome because my dad's taking accountability, my family's taking accountability, I've taken accountability for everything that we've done, and it's been nice because since I don't live that close anymore, we don't get to spend as much quality time as we used to. And so when I'm up for the holidays, we're able to just be a cohesive unit. Now, they're not going to hang out all the time outside, but when we're home and the kids are home, we're able to at least just come together as a family. And now my older sister has a niece or has a daughter, my niece, and that obviously brings the family a little bit closer too. So it's just really incredible what we can do when people are willing to take accountability. Now, there's been a lot of factors to do that, and it's not just been one person, but it takes one person to start it as well. And so I'm just blessed that we're able to even do stuff like that now. So it can happen. It can happen to any one of you guys. We just have to take the first step.
Yeah, man, it is a phenomenal thing. I appreciate you guys for your time. I'm sorry that it got so dark. This room, coincide, does not have a light bulb. And if I do turn on the light, it's like random stars that go on the thing. So I didn't feel like having stars behind me. So my
You're already
apologies.
shining enough. We don't
Yeah,
need more stars.
stop it, dude. I needed that today. No, I was like, tell me more. I'm like a golden retriever. Pet me, call me a good boy, and I'm happy. That's it. And so, but no, I appreciate you guys. What you guys, I think, are doing is phenomenal. Just as a family mindset and overall to hopefully spread that positivity. And even if people don't take it fully in, being able to take the 2 cents and go, you know what, cool, I'm gonna create my own little blueprint for my own family dynamic and make it as positive as possible. So I think it's phenomenal what you guys are doing. And man, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Shorty, it's a pleasure. It was nice meeting you guys. We are here every Tuesday at 6:30. So please leave comments below what you guys want us to talk about. And if you guys want to join in during the conversation, we'll ask some questions as well too. So thank you so much, Shorty. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you
Oh,
guys.
and good luck on the trilogy. That's fucking epic.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm excited. Mauritius, like, have you ever even heard of that island? I haven't.
No.
From Vegas, it's 35 or 37 hours. And shout out Chepe from UFC. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, bud. But yeah, man, that's like 37-hour flight. So I'm not excited, but super excited all at the same time. So 37 hours to punch someone in the face. So let's get it done. It has to be worth it.
Yeah, get that bread.
I
Cool,
appreciate
brother. Thank you so
Joining
much.
the Legacy Project, episode 10, and our guest Shorty, dude, thank you again. And Albert, man, just want to tell you, so everybody hears me, man. I absolutely love you, bro. I'm so
Love you
glad that we
too.
can do this together. And by the way, everybody on this was my son's idea when we came together. About a year ago, we took a little trip together. He had this idea about this legacy. Let's build a legacy and let's start here. So I may have been the put pebble in the pond, right? But the baton has been passed. And then Albert has been a huge activist in this and wanting to get this going. And I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. So even if we touch one of you, we've done our job. And even if you get a glimpse of just what could be, it's available. Everything's redeemable as long as you take fucking accountability for who you are, you surrender your ego, and you're 100% radically responsible for your actions. Let's go.
I just want to last question before this signs off.
Yeah.
Albert the Fourth, is there gonna be a fifth?
Oh, of course. That Mrs. Chavez already knows. So
Oh, okay.
she's not there. She's not there yet, but that's a prerequisite for every person that I date is number 5 is for sure. Yeah.
Making sure, just making sure.
Yeah, no,
Legacy
100%.
project going. I appreciate it, guys. Before this cuts off.
Peace. But